Welcome to the channel, and this is another part of my decade build series, and today we're going to be doing a 1950s ranch mid-century house, and I've been waiting for this moment the whole time I've been doing this series. I love the 50s and 60s and the aesthetic of it, and it's just amazing, and I've wanted to do this for so long, and I just was so ecstatic that the bowling pack came out this Wednesday. So it came out just in time for me to furnish this house, and I was like, yes, the sim gods have heard my prayers, because I didn't want to resort to CC in this build because I knew a lot of the items that were in the pack already, well, you know, they're kind of mid-century, but they weren't completely. And so when the bowling pack came out and all this mid-century inspired items happened, I was like, yes, this is amazing, this is perfect. And I'm sure you guys who follow me on Twitter know how much I've been raving about it. But now I finally can use the items in this house. I built this house last week because I figured I wouldn't have a whole lot of time this week due to work. So I just kind of waited to furnish until the bowling pack came out, but I'm so happy with how it came out. I think it's very 50s and it's very mid-century, and it's just perfect. I would definitely want to live in this house, I think. But I saw this picture actually of a house that was next to a lake or the ocean or something. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I put this house on this lot. It's the 64 by 64 lot on the island in Windenburg. And even though it's not really that big of a house, like it doesn't take up the whole lot, but I figured that because it's so wide, it wouldn't really fit on any other lots very well. So I just figured, you know, it's better to go bigger than to not have a whole lot of room to play around with. So yeah, and then you get nice views to the ocean, so it's okay. So here I'm doing the carport, which was very popular during the 50s and all the way up until the 70s, really. But yeah, it's kind of like an open garage area, which is kind of cool. But as I do always, I wanted to show you a few pictures that I referenced to create this house and to furnish it. So on the left is an example of a mid-century home that I looked at, as well as a few others, especially the brick in the front and the low sloped roofs. And this kitchen is incredible. Yeah, I referenced this kitchen for the kitchen in the build, which you'll see me furnish in a little bit. But yeah, that was definitely a huge inspiration. The 50s, when pink ruled and all other colors were just complimentary. I used the bedroom and this bathroom to inspire me for the master bedroom and the master bathroom in this house. And if you remember the little media console with the wood paneling, there's a lot of wood paneling in mid-century type homes. But yeah, I had so much fun with this build. Like, I kind of want to do like 10 more mid-century homes. I'm just so excited. I've been wanting mid-century items for forever. Like, you don't even know. But as I do with all my decade builds, I like to share with you some history about the time, just to give you a little context as to what was going on. I don't usually do this, but I kind of imagine that this house is late 50s. I usually like to do like an early part of the decade and a later part of the decade for the second part of the decade, for the next week. But it is what it is, because a lot of what happened in the early 50s kind of transitioned through the 50s, and there wasn't really that much of a difference, so I didn't think it was that big of a deal. So yeah, but anyway, so the 50s was a decade that had a huge impact, not only in America, but on the entire world, really. People were enjoying pretty normal family lives, and the economy was successful and booming, and that was largely due to the industries that prospered through World War II. And Marilyn Monroe, she gained superstardom during the 50s. She was kind of a pinup girl in the 40s. That's kind of when her career began, and she just became this huge movie star and icon of the time in the 50s. And of course, it wouldn't be the 50s if we didn't talk about Elvis Presley. He was making teenage girls scream in audiences around the country, and I'll talk a little bit more about him when I get to the teen's bedroom, because I reference him in that. But at the same time, it was also a decade with a lot of conflict, both internal and external, and that had a huge lasting effect on the future. So a lot of what we like to believe about the 50s is very nostalgic, and a lot of what people think of the 50s is very, it's mostly like the aesthetic part of it that people feel nostalgic about, which is fine because it is amazing. But a lot of people don't realize that the 50s and 60s were a very, very hard time for a lot of people, not only because of the Korean War that began in the 50s, but it also led to the Vietnam War in the 60s and 70s, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But, and then there's also the Civil Rights Movement, the women's movement, and there was just a bunch of unrest and people who didn't want to kind of go along with the changes in culture that people wanted. Because a lot of what is portrayed in movies and shows is kind of one-sided, portraying the ideal family and American 1950s family, which are great, and they're just shows, but in a way it was a little bit like propaganda because it portrayed in America that wasn't actually happening. And I think that a lot of people during that time, and even now, it's kind of the same way. Like the similarities between now and then are pretty big. But so the 50s were great for middle class white Americans, and that's pretty much it. But as far as inventions go, a lot of the inventions that were made like commercially available to people, we still use today. Transistor radios were invented in 1953, the TV remote, the automatic dishwasher, and combo dryers and washers. Dryer and washer machines were available to the public in 1954. Pacemakers for the heart were invented in 1956. Another super important invention, of course, was the polio vaccine, which released in 1955, pretty much eradicating the disease from existence. In 1958, NASA was established and became operational in 1958. The space race to get to the moon began in the late 50s, and consequently, people became obsessed with space, science fiction, rockets, atomic style and living. So I reflect that in the little boy's room, which you'll see in a little while. So as I was saying before, the Korean War began in 1950 and continued until 1953. What had started as a civil war between the two governments of North and South Korea gradually transformed into like a huge international conflict between democratic and communist powers headed by the US and the USSR, respectively, making it one of the most like brutal wars ever fought. And the year 1959 also witnessed the beginning of the Vietnam War, and it was fought with the US intervention basically to limit the spread of communism in Vietnam. Prior to this, an anti-communist activity was regarded as a crime punishable by death in Vietnam. And on December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks refused to vacate her seat aboard a Montgomery, Alabama bus, which propelled the civil rights movement further to desegregate African Americans that would last well into the 60s and even just a little bit into the 70s. But as far as pop culture goes, the 50s were, in my opinion, largely shaped by teenagers and teens that rebelled against the social norms were called beatniks, and they're considered to be the predecessors of hippies, bohemians, and even the hipsters of today. Amongst the various genres of music, bebop and different variations of jazz became really popular during this time, and of course, the teen icon Elvis Presley was extremely famous during this time. He kind of shaped rock and roll as we know it today. And also for you Disney fans, Disney Cinderella and Alice in Wonderland were released in 1950 and 1951 or so, and they were also majorly popular for good reason because I love them too. But as far as like the mid-century modern movement, it was a reflection of the International and Bauhaus style, and famous works of that style can be found in the city of Palm Springs. And Palm Springs is in California, I believe. But Bauhaus, International, and mid-century modern movements combined have really helped to contribute to some of the world's most iconic pieces of furniture ever. And standing structures from housing to like apartments and homes, which are still really popular today. And mid-century modern is an architectural, interior, product, and graphic design that describes mid-20th century developments in modern design and architecture and urban development from roughly 1933 to 1965. The term was basically a style descriptor as early as the mid-50s. So around the mid-50s, people were calling it mid-century modern. So it's not a new thing to call it that. Also, fun fact, IKEA began in 1943. They began selling from catalogs only, and then later in 1958 they opened their first store, and they were insanely popular, as they are now, pretty much for the same reasons. It was affordable, and it looks decent. World War II influenced the beginnings of mid-century modern furniture. When the economic situation started to improve after World War II, Americans began demanding functional, fashionable, and affordable furniture. The war influenced various technological and industrial advancements, and in turn impacted the furniture industry. So economical, mass-produced modern furniture was then designed and produced and then sold to the public, which a high demand for beautiful yet affordable furniture, the furniture industry turned to modern designs because it was kind of like, okay, how can we make something that looks really nice but is really cheap to make. So that's kind of the whole idea behind mid-century furniture. So the modernist movement cast aside the notion that furniture was simply ornamental and needed to focus on details and craftsmanship. Functional furniture became really popular and allowed for manufacturers to think more about the design and less about the details. Due to the technological and industrial post-war changes, many non-traditional materials were used in the creation of mid-century furniture. Steel, plastic, plywood, glass, plexiglass, and acrylics were all common furniture materials that they would use. The main goal was to use cost-effective materials so that furniture could be mass-produced and sold in a large amount to consumers. I wanted to share with you guys a little bit about my childhood and why I love the 50s and 60s style so much. When I was younger, I actually used to watch TV Land, and those of you who are outside the US, it was a channel that showed really like vintage and retro shows like I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, the Dick Van Dyke Show, I Live Lucy, shows like that. And I think I was 8, maybe 7 even, but I would turn on TV Land and I would have my breakfast and I would watch these shows, and I was absolutely obsessed with them. So I pretty much was raised by 1950s housewives. And I love the style of it, and of course I had to put flamingos. It's pretty iconic for 50s and 60s homes for lawn decorations. But anyway, I would sit there and watch these shows, eat my breakfast, and I've just been kind of obsessed with it ever since. So this is kind of a cool little trick that I learned from another YouTuber. She's a smaller YouTuber, and she does these like little how did I do that videos, and I think that's a really cute idea. But she basically stacks the rugs so that there's a little more variety in pattern, and I'll definitely leave her channel down below for you to check out because she seems very sweet and she has a lot of great ideas that I think you guys would like. So I decided to go a different route with the rug. I really liked this yellow and the blue, so I stacked one of the City Living, I think they're like chalk art or something that would go on the wood or the floor. So I just kind of put that on one of the round rugs in that came with the Vintage Glamour. So going back to what I was talking about earlier, also another influential thing in my life was my grandpa on my dad's side. My grandpa was a lighting technician in Hollywood during the 50s and 60s, so he worked on a lot of those old shows that are pretty famous today, like I Dream of Jeannie especially. And my dad actually met Jeannie when he was a kid because he would go to the studio with his dad, and I mean, that's just crazy to me. So yeah, so I kind of grew up knowing about these shows and the culture in the 50s at an early age, so I think that really influenced what I like and how I dress, especially. For the past, 7 years, every Halloween I've been a 50s housewife because I already have all the clothes. So, yeah. I've been told that it's cheating, but I'm fine with it. I used to pin curl my hair quite a bit, but because I have really thin hair, it was damaging my hair, so I stopped. But it was fun while it lasted. So what I'm doing here is a kind of like a desk, what would you call it? A media unit, console unit, something like that. But these were really popular in the 50s. If you think of IKEA's office units. They're very similar. They haven't really changed all that much. Of course, I had to have the bowling award cabinet thing because, I don't know, people just were obsessed with bowling at this time. So it only made sense. I thought this was a nice place to put the bar. It's kind of next to the kitchen, but kind of away from the kitchen as well. A little bit private in a way. And I loved this. They kind of fit together in a way. These two, like, neon light things. I imagine that this house is either in California or Florida, kind of somewhere subtropical in a way, since it's next to the water. And I thought maybe it would be nice to have a seating area next to the bar. So if you're entertaining or whatever, then you can have some people sit in this area and some people sit in the other living room next to the fireplace. I love this little light that came with the bowling pack. It's so perfect for desks and like little areas because a lot of the lamps are either way too small or way too big. So that lamp is just kind of a perfect happy medium in a way. And here I wanted to do something with the mirrors that came with the vintage glamour pack. Just a little something for that wall since it's kind of plain back there. It just leads to the laundry room pretty much. And the laundry room leads to the garage. So this is the little boy's room, and I was unsure about what wallpaper I wanted to use, but this stripy retro looking wallpaper seemed to fit pretty well. I really wanted like a cowboy and Indian type wallpaper, and I thought there was one, but I believe the cowboy pattern was either in Sims 3 or it's just on the toddler pajamas, which I was talking to one of my friends about it, and I was like, wasn't there a cowboy pattern somewhere? But no, it's nowhere in the wallpapers, unfortunately. So kids' bedrooms kind of had this, like the bed was connected to two nightstands and kind of like a shelf or drawers that were behind the bed to add for some added storage. So that's kind of what I was going for with this. And I also added a bookshelf behind so it just kind of look a little sturdier and taller in a way. And I noticed in a lot of pictures of little boys' rooms, they would have this table in their room where they had toys on it. And so I thought it would be cute to have a activity table in his room that had like a little train set on it. And I don't know, I think it turned out really cute. It has a lot of rockets and science fiction inspired artwork and things like that. Moving on to the teen girls' bedroom, I was trying to look for something similar to Elvis or that would give the idea of Elvis, and this artwork was perfect for that because I looked up like 1950s teen bedrooms, and most of them had like their walls littered with photos of Elvis. So I thought that was kind of funny, very teen-like. I mean, I had walls littered with stuff too, so it's not like it's a new thing. And I wish that this bed, it came, I wish that it comes in like a double bed because it was pretty perfect for this. So I just kind of squished two together, and I thought this was cool. I sized up the CDs that are just a decorative object, I think, but I sized them up, I think, twice. And I thought they looked exactly like vinyls, which was so exciting to me because music was a really big part of teenage culture. So, yeah. So I have like this, it's the gramophone. I wish there was a record player in The Sims. Why didn't it come with the bowling pack? I don't know. But yeah, so I just kind of placed the gramophone inside of this box. So it kind of looked like a record player, but I had to actually take that out, put the gramophone just on the dresser because for some reason they couldn't use it the way that it was. So unfortunately, it's just a gramophone, but we'll pretend that it's a record player. Also, a huge part of design in the 50s was using tons of pink, especially for girls and women. The kitchens were pink, paint, walls were pink, the bathrooms were pink. It was just pink overload. And you'll see that in the master bathroom once I get to it. So I thought this bathroom was really cute. For some reason, brightly colored toilets and tubs were really popular. Like pink and blue toilets and tubs. So that's kind of what I did for the kids' room, or the guest bathroom. I guess it really would be. And this is the master bathroom, and I was looking at a master bathroom that had pinks and mints in it, and obviously we don't have a ton of pink or mint items in the game, so I kind of did what made sense and that looked kind of similar and would still give you the idea of what I was going for. But yeah, a lot of pinks, a lot of mint in this bathroom. And also in the bedroom, I did kind of the same thing. I like this idea where it's kind of like a half square area where I put the mirrors on the side walls as well as the back walls, which I think is very reminiscent of this time. So in the reference picture that I referenced for the master bedroom, they had these like white plain really low dressers, and there's not really a dresser that's kind of low and skinny, so I just used these nightstands to give a feel for that kind of style. I did end up changing the position of the vanity over to the other side because there wasn't really any room in front of the window, I thought. And of course the vanity is an essential part of any 50s housewife makeup routine. So I used the more modern looking one because I think that would fit pretty well. And I loved this chair, very 50s, I think, kind of a pinkish looking plush chair. But I did move that over to the other side of the door because I think it would have blocked the door in a way. Also in the reference picture, they had like a black accent wall behind the bed, which I thought was kind of cool, and I haven't really seen that in other mid-century bedroom photos. Photos. So I just kind of used some more pink. It was very pink in this room, and it's not really my style, but it was very, very popular in the 50s. So that's what I did. So anyways, guys, I'm just going to be adding some more of these like divider things outside and just adding a fence and some lighting, but that's pretty much the build. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm super excited to make another mid-century house for next week. And I will see you next time. Bye.